Our jam-packed show filled with content and information for our friends out there listening for information about small business and jobs is only going to love us even more. They're going to love us here on Get Down to Business because our next guest, Chris Everett of Everett College Funding, has a lot more information to share with our listeners. Thank you, Chris, as always, for the time and for the information. Thanks for joining us on Get Down to Business.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me on today.
And it's exciting. It's a Sunday show, and we are live. So we are taking calls, and we are taking questions at 312-642-5600. But, Chris, so many of our listeners have family members that have recently started college, and they know the rather stressful ordeal of paying for college and picking the right college for their children. Chris, you make that job a lot easier, but what advice do you have for our listeners out there?
Well, when it comes to picking the right college, we tell you to slow down a little bit. Now, you just said that folks are already in college. So when they're there, if they're not really sure the direction that they need to go in, they can get some help from us by we can help them understand their hardwiring. And by that I mean really sitting them down, having them take a Berkman consultation, a Berkman analysis with a counseling package wrapped around it so they can understand how they were put together. But more than that, understand the career path that will allow them to be fit and flourish in that career path. There's so many kids that get on campus and are unsure. This takes all the uncertainty out of it and gives them a range of best fit career choices so mom and dad can be assured that their children will be graduating in 4 years instead of the new normal of 5, 6, God forbid, even 7.
Chris, you and I have spoken about that, and we know that it's not, unfortunately, all that uncommon that some folks sort of float through college with, as you said, might not even finish within the 4, 5, 6. It might take 7 years, and some people don't even finish college with a real plan of action for their life, a real opportunity to make a living. And you try to change that, don't you?
I do. You know, the Obama administration has started to tell colleges they need to capture not only the 4, 5, and 6-year graduation rates, but the 7 and 8-year graduation rates. And I just think that's pathetic.
You know, that makes me depressed. I don't like hearing that.
Very depressing. But, you know, not only are the 5th, 6th, God forbid, 7th or 8th year for a bachelor's degree the most expensive years because you have to factor in the inflation costs, right? Every year college gets more and more expensive. But the money piece aside, it's emotionally exhausting for these kids to not really know what they're supposed to be doing. So we really think it's such a benefit to really help them understand their hardwiring, get on purpose, and then be guided toward that career that's going to be the best fit. We all want our kids happy. We want them flourishing so that we can help them be fit to flourish.
Chris, you and I have spoken a lot about families making that decision of sending their child to college, which college to go to, how to pay for it. What I don't think we've spoken a lot about is do you often consult with people that are considering continuing on in school, going for a graduate degree?
We do somewhat, and it mostly aligns with hardwiring conversations or funding. And so if they're going to be going on, we want to make sure they're going in the right direction, and we want to make sure they're not taking on too much debt if they're going to be paying for the continuation.
And I'm sure many of our listeners, this is music to their ears, that there's actually somebody that's willing to talk with them, that's somebody that's willing to give them the advice that they need so they don't just sort of write a check and make payments for something that, sure, we all agree college is so important, but it's got to be, there has to be a return on investment, an opportunity that at the end of those 4, maybe 5 years, maybe 6 years, hopefully not longer than that there's something to show for it. And that's what our friend Chris Everett of Everett College Funding is sharing with our listeners. But Chris, you mentioned a sort of analysis. I think you called it the Berkman analysis or test. Tell us a little bit more about what that's like.
Absolutely. The Berkman is to be considered similar to a Colby analysis, or even Naviance has some hardwiring work that they show the children, or why can't I say it? Myers-Briggs, that's the word.
The tongue twister.
Yeah, but the Berkman out of all of those different tests on personality type, whether it's the DISC, the Myers-Briggs, Colby, whatever, Berkman goes deeper and wider than all of them. And our kids know their hardwiring. It's in place by the time they're a freshman in high school. But we don't encourage them to take their Berkman until they're going into their junior year, because at that point they're generally mature enough, and before they head into high school where the schools are going to be inundating them with college selection, we want them to slow down so that they understand how they were made. They can begin to look at major decisions before they're choosing colleges. So majors and career paths before choosing college. And I think most of the time the kids end up doing it backwards. Or, mom and dad, you're investing a lot of money in jumping into a car or on a plane, going all over the place, looking at these colleges that might not even be the right fit for your son or daughter.
Sure. And I have a call to action for our listeners of Get Down to Business. Everybody knows somebody that's involved that has a child in college that is making a decision for next year or even for 2 years from now. And I want you to take down this number. Take down the number from Chris Everett and call her. Ask her for advice before you make the wrong decision. Chris, how can people reach you?
Well, it's 708-771-7777. And if you want to meet us and talk to us and take part in a workshop, we've got one coming up next week, September 25th, at the Eisenhower Public Library in Harwood Heights. Go on our website, everettcollegefunding.com, and sign up. It's a wonderful way to really see all the resources that we offer someone.
Or you can call Chris at 708-771-7777. Mark down that number, 708-771-7777. Share that number. Chris, thanks for joining us. After the break, as promised, I'll be telling you how to run a productive meeting.